The Earth base was quiet that evening, the skies above glowing in shades of orange and purple. Commander Raynor stood outside, sipping hot coffee, watching the sky as the sun dropped behind the hills. Then it happened. A bright light shot across the sky, fast, smooth, silent. It wasn't a star, not a meteor either. Soldiers rushed to alarms, weapons in hand, their eyes locked on the glowing object coming down slowly like a feather. The object landed outside the base in the desert, not with a crash, but like it had always belonged there. Raynor gave the order. No one fires unless I say so. The ship was sleek, silver, and unlike any design Earth had seen before, a door opened with a quiet hiss, and out walked the most beautiful woman anyone had ever seen. She wasn't human, but she was close, tall, with pale silver skin that shimmered in the setting sun, long flowing hair like threads of light, and eyes deep blue like the ocean before a storm. Her uniform was royal purple, her movements graceful, every step like a dance she didn't raise. Her hands were speaking threat. Instead, she bowed slightly and said in perfect English, "I am Lorea of the Galatheri. I come in peace." No one moved. Raynor took a step forward, signaling his men to lower their guns. "You speak English," he said, surprised. "I speak many tongues," she replied softly, her voice like music. "My people sent me to talk to yours." "Talk about what?" he asked. "Peace, alliance, future," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Raynor nodded slowly. "All right, let's talk." As they walked into the base, soldiers stared, whispering quietly. Some felt uneasy. Why send someone so beautiful as a diplomat unless there was a hidden reason? Inside the conference room, Lorea moved like she had studied every Earth custom. She sat properly, answered politely, and watched Raynor with sharp, curious eyes. But when she was alone, her expression changed. In her guest room, she touched the glowing stone on her wrist, activating a tiny hidden communicator. A voice came through. Speaking her true language, "Has contact been made?" "Yes," she said. "The human commander is different than expected. You must complete your mission," the voice said firmly. "Charm him, learn from him, get close to him." Lorea hesitated, then whispered, "Understood, but..." As she turned off the device, her hand stayed on it for a moment longer than needed. That night, she stood outside, looking up at Earth's stars. Breathing in the cool air, she had seen many planets, spoken to many leaders, but this one Raynor, he was strange. He didn't look at her like a tool, or a prize, or a danger. He looked at her like a person, and that was new. Later, Raynor walked by and noticed her alone. "Can't sleep?" he asked, standing beside her. She shook her head. "Your stars are peaceful," he nodded. "Sometimes I forget to look at them." They stood in silence for a moment, two souls from different worlds, just staring at the sky. Back inside, Raynor watched her through the security cameras. Something not sitting right. She hadn't asked about Earth's defenses or weapons, hadn't made demands, and yet, his gut said she was hiding something. But what? In her room, Lorea placed her hand over her stomach, frowning. Her body felt strange. It must have been the planet's gravity, or the air, she thought. Yet a small part of her whispered something else. Something she wasn't ready to believe. The next morning, Raynor was called to the main room. A secret message had come. Through Earth's spy satellites, intercepted alien orders, translated from Galatheri code. Mission changed, the message said. Use charm, gained full control of human commander. Raynor stared at the screen in silence. And in that moment, he knew Lorea wasn't just here for peace, she was here for him. But what her people didn't plan for, what she didn't expect, was how close she'd feel to the man she was sent to manipulate. And as her hand once again rested gently on her stomach, she whispered to herself in her own language, "This wasn't part of the mission. Lurea walked through the human base like she belonged there. Everyone turned to look at her, but she didn't seem nervous. She smiled gently, spoke kindly, and never raised her voice. But inside, her thoughts were sharp, calculating, confused. She was trained to control, not to feel, but ever since meeting Commander Raynor, her mission no longer felt clear. The base commander had given her limited access, but that was enough. She attended meetings, walked with Raynor, and listened carefully to everything. The humans thought she was just a diplomat, a messenger of peace, but in truth, Lurea's mission had changed the moment her ship left orbit. Her orders were now clear. Charm the commander, gain his full trust, and prepare for future control. She was supposed to be a weapon wearing a smile, but she hadn't expected him to smile back with such honesty. He asked her real questions, not just political ones. What do your people dream of? He had asked one morning. Lurea had paused, blinking slowly. No one had ever asked her that before, not even her trainers. Now her heart reacted to his voice, his presence, even his scent. That wasn't part of the plan. She hated how her body felt. Warmer near him, how her voice softened without her meaning to. She tried to stay cold, distant, focused, but it wasn't working, and someone else had noticed. Late one night, Lurea walked into her room and found a figure waiting, tall, cloaked in a deep blue Galithri robe. A second diplomat, no, not a diplomatin. Enforcer, his name was Zareth, and his eyes were cold like dead stars. Your mission performance is weakening, he said, without emotion. Lurea's jaw tightened. I am doing what was asked. You turned off your transmitter, Zareth said calmly. You broke protocol. Lurea raised her chin. The humans have scanners. I had too. Stay hidden. Zareth stepped closer. Then why haven't you begun emotional extraction yet? Lurea didn't answer. She couldn't tell him the truth, that she didn't want to lie to Raynor anymore. That his kindness had broken through her walls. You have one cycle, Zareth said darkly. If the commander is not fully under your influence by then, I will take over. With that, he vanished back into the shadows. Leaving a cold presence behind, the next day, Lurea tried harder. She walked closer to Raynor, smiled more. Even touched his arm when speaking. But every time she did, her stomach twisted. He noticed something was off. You all right? He asked, his voice full of concern. I'm fine, she lied, forcing a soft smile. Raynor studied her face. Trying to read her eyes, she looked like she wanted to say something more, but held back. Later that afternoon, one of Raynor's officers pulled him aside. Sir, I don't trust her, the man said. She's too perfect, too polished. Raynor didn't reply right away. He didn't fully trust her either, but he also couldn't stop thinking about her. There was something behind her eyes, like a person trapped behind glass. That night, Lurea stood alone near the base's fence, staring at the stars again. She pressed her fingers to her wristband and whispered, I can't do this, but no. One answered, suddenly. Footsteps approached. It was Raynor, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. I thought you might want one, he said. Offering it to her, she hesitated, then took it, fingers brushing his. Why are you kind to me? She asked quietly. Because you haven't given me a reason not to be, he said simply. She looked down. What if I did? Raynor took a slow sip, watching her. Then I'd listen and ask why. He said, not all enemies want to be enemies. Forever, her hands trembled slightly. She wanted to tell him everything, but doing so would mean exile. Or worse, death. I was sent here for a mission, she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. I figured, Raynor replied, but you don't look like someone who wants to finish it. She looked at him sharply, surprised. You're not a threat to me, Lurea, he said gently. You're just someone. Stuck, Lurea turned away, hiding the tears forming in her eyes. Her people would never understand this. To them, Weakness was death. Emotion was poison. But this human, this simple soldier, had shown her more warmth in 1 week than her own kind had in a lifetime. As Raynor left her alone with the stars, Larea placed her hand over her heart. A new message flashed in her wrist device. Zareth reporting, "Commander not yet compromised. Proceed to final phase." But Larea didn't respond. She had made a silent decision she would not follow the mission blindly anymore. She would choose her own path, even if it meant risking everything. The sky was too quiet. Larea noticed it first, standing by the base's outer fence. The air felt strange, too still, like it was holding its breath. She turned toward the mountains beyond the base and saw a faint shimmer. Something was there, hidden in a light bending cloak. Then the ground trembled, just once, like a warning. Alarms began to scream across the base. Red lights flashed, and soldiers ran into position, shouting orders. Raynor's voice echoed through the speakers. "We're under attack. Defensive teams report to your stations." Larea ran toward the command center, but a blast hit the wall nearby, throwing her to the ground. She rolled, stood fast, and tapped her wristband, switching it to combat mode. She wasn't just a diplomat. She was trained in defense, too. Something streaked through the sky, crashing into the northern watchtower. The attackers were not her people, not humans either. This was a third faction mercenaries. Rogue aliens who wanted Earth's secrets for their own use. They had come now, when trust between Earth and the Galithri was still fragile. Perfect timing, Larea whispered bitterly. Inside the base, Raynor barked orders. Face calm, but eyes burning. He saw Larea rush in, glowing shield on her arm, eyes sharp with focus. "You armed?" he asked. She nodded, pulling out a small crystal blade that shimmered with light. "Stay close," he said, handing her a backup pistol. "We protect this base together." Fires burned outside as enemy drones poured in from the hills. Earth soldiers fought back bravely, but they were outnumbered. Larea jumped into the fight, faster than any human. Slicing through machines with her alien blade, Raynor watched her move, beautiful, deadly, and fearless. At one point, a drone locked onto Raynor, its plasma weapon charging. Larea threw herself between them, taking the blast on her shield. Raynor grabbed her hand, pulled her to cover, and shouted, "You saved me." She blinked. "I don't know why I did." Together, they made it to the power room, trying to reboot the shields. Larea worked fast, hands dancing over controls, bypassing Earth's tech with her knowledge. "I thought you were just here to talk," Raynor said, trying to smile through the smoke. "I was," she answered. "Now I don't know who I am." The shields roared back to life, cutting off the incoming drones for a moment. The base had a chance, now, but only a small one. Raynor looked at her seriously. "You're not like any diplomat I've ever met." She looked at him, heart pounding. She wanted to speak, but something inside her snapped first. The words fell out without warning. "I was sent to seduce you, Raynor." Froze. "To learn your mind, your heart, your weaknesses." She continued, voice shaking. "That was my real mission." Silence, heavy and thick, filled the room. Then Raynor stepped closer, looking straight into her eyes. "And now?" he asked. Larea's voice cracked. "Now I don't want to lie anymore." She turned away, ashamed, expecting anger or betrayal. But instead, Raynor gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't," he said softly. "Be honest now, and stay." Her eyes widened, not expecting kindness after the truth. "I should be your enemy." She said. "You should," he replied. "But maybe we don't have to be what we were trained to be." A pause. Then Larea smiled faintly for the first time without force. Later that night, when the fires were put out and the attackers had retreated, the base lay quiet again. Raynor sat outside, staring at the stars. His arm bruised, his body tired, Loria walked over, wrapped in a thermal cloak. Silent, she sat beside him, their shoulders touching gently. "I broke my orders," she whispered. "They'll punish me for this." Raynor looked at her. Then, "We'll deal with that together." He reached into his pocket and handed her a small data crystal. "What is this?" she asked. "Everything we know about the Galithri," he said. "I'm not hiding anything from you, F. You're going to stay. You should see we're not your enemy." She took it carefully, eyes full of something new trust. Then she leaned, her head on his shoulder. "I don't know what's happening to me," she said, her voice soft and shaken. "I was built for control, not for feeling." "You're not a machine," Raynor replied gently, "and I don't want a weapon. I want you as you really are." That night, no orders were given, no missions planned. Just two souls who were once enemies, sitting under the same stars, beginning to understand each other in her room. Later, Lorea stood by the mirror. Touching her stomach again, there was a warmth there, a pulse that didn't feel like her own. She closed her eyes, whispering in her native tongue, "This, ... wasn't part of the mission." Morning came slowly after the attack. Smoke still rose from the hills, and the base smelled of burnt metal and scorched earth. Commander Raynor hadn't slept, his mind filled with questions. Luria's words kept repeating in his head. "I was sent to seduce you," and yet she had saved his life, fought beside him, and confessed the truth. Was she still a threat, or something else now? As Raynor walked through the base, eyes followed him, whispers passed like wind. Some soldiers didn't trust Lorea, others feared her beauty was a trick. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris, walked up fast, holding a report. "Sir," he said, voice tight, "we received a coded transmission from Earth Central." Raynor took the tablet and read the message. It was clear, cold, and final. "You are ordered to detain the alien diplomat, known as Lorea, immediately. High Command suspects covert sabotage. Failure to comply will be seen as treason." Raynor's jaw clenched. He knew Lorea wasn't the same person who had landed days ago. But Earth Command didn't know that, and they didn't care, at the same time. Lorea was in her room, staring at her wrist device. A new message had come in from her own people. This one was even worse. "You have failed to seduce and control the human commander. Prepare for retrieval and extraction. The child, if confirmed, will be removed." Her breath stopped. The child? She hadn't spoken the truth to Raynor yet. Not all of it. Not about the strange energy growing inside her. Not about the sharp pulses in her body. Her child, a child she never planned, with a man she never meant to care for, was now in danger from both sides. She had to act, but before she could move, the door to her room opened with a hiss. Raynor stood there, face unreadable, two guards behind him. She stood slowly, meeting his eyes. "You got the order," she said quietly. He nodded. "They want me to arrest you." She didn't run, didn't fight, just whispered, "Will you?" Raynor waved the guards away and stepped inside, closing the door. "No," he said. "But I need to know something, everything." She looked down, ashamed, then finally spoke. "I was created to be beautiful, trained to be dangerous, and sent to be your weakness," she said, voice trembling. "But you changed something inside me." She placed his hand on her belly. "I'm carrying your child," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Raynor stepped back in shock. Lips parted, breath caught. He sat down hard, trying to process what he just heard. "You're serious?" he said, not as a question, but in disbelief. She nodded. "My people will take the child if I return, and my people will experiment on it if you stay." He added grimly. They both looked at each other, knowing the truth. They had no safe side left. Just then, an explosion rocked the base again. But not from outside this time. It came from inside, near the power core. Raynor jumped to his feet. "Stay here," he ordered, but Larea grabbed his arm. "No, if they're here for me." They ran down the hall, smoke filling the air, alarms screaming once again, inside the power control room. Zareth stood, his blade drawn, guards already dead, his silver eyes locked onto Larea. "You chose wrong," he said, stepping forward. "Now you will lose everything." Raynor fired a warning shot, but Zareth moved fast, dodging like lightning. Larea stood in front of Reyna, her hands glowing with energy. "I won't let you take him, or the child," she said. Her voice filled with fury and sorrow. Zareth snarled, "You were made for loyalty, not love." "I wasn't made to love," she said, "but I learned it anyway." They fought, energy flashing like lightning. Metal clashing with light, Raynor shot again and hit Zareth in the leg, giving Larea the chance to strike. Her blade pierced his shoulder, and he fell back, gasping. "You are lost now," he whispered before teleporting out with a blinding flash. Silence followed, broken only by the crackling of sparks. Raynor leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Larea looked at him with tired eyes. "We can't stay here," she said. "Both our worlds want us gone." He nodded slowly. "Then we disappear." The sky turned gray as the transport ship lifted off from the Earth base. No one cheered. No one waved goodbye. Inside the ship, Commander Raynor sat beside Larea, his jaw clenched, hands shaking slightly. They were fugitives now, both of them. Raynor had defied Earth command, helped an alien escape, and turned his back on the military. Larea had betrayed her own kind, rejected her training, and now carried something that should not exist. A child. A human alien child. The ship hummed softly as it crossed into high orbit, heading toward a neutral space colony far outside Earth's control. Neither of them spoke for a while. Raynor looked at her. Her silver skin pale under the ship's lights, eyes closed, hands gently holding her stomach. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. She opened her eyes. "I don't know. Is it growing fast?" She nodded. "Faster than normal. Faster than it should." Raynor reached for her hand and held it gently. "We'll find help, I promise." The colony they traveled to was called Virella, a hidden place filled with smugglers, exiles, and beings who wanted nothing to do with empires. Raynor had visited once, long ago, on a secret mission. Now it would be their only hope. When they arrived, the colony looked like a floating scrapyard, half-lit, buzzing with noise and life. Their ship was scanned by old machines, but no questions were asked. Here, no one cared who you were, as long as you didn't bring war. They found shelter in a small, rented room made of metal and cracked glass. Larea sat on the edge of the bed, looking out at the stars through a dusty window. Raynor stood behind her, unsure of what to say. She spoke first. "I feel it." He walked over, kneeling beside her. "The baby." "Yes," she whispered. "It's not just inside me. It's speaking." Raynor's eyebrows raised. "Speaking." She touched her head, not with words, not like us, but feelings, thoughts. Raynor stayed silent, letting her speak. "It's scared, confused, and warm," she said, her voice cracking like it wants to belong. He took her hand again. "Firmer this time, then we'll give it a place to belong." They visited an underground clinic, known only through whispers. It was run by a retired human alien doctor named Velith. Her skin was dark purple, her hair braided in silver threads, and her eyes old and tired. She looked at Larea with careful interest. "You're Galatheri," Velith said, "and pregnant with a human's child." Larea nodded, scared but firm. Velith scanned her body with a glowing device, frowning as the numbers changed quickly. "This is rare," she said, "but not impossible. Will she survive?" Raynor asked immediately. Velith paused, then said, "Maybe, if the pregnancy is watched carefully. If the child doesn't grow too fast, Lurea looked at her hands, trembling, and the baby. Veleth's eyes softened. The baby is strong, very strong. And unlike anything I've seen, she handed them both a data chip. You need to keep this safe. It contains medical info no one else has. Lurea looked up. Why are you helping? Us. Veleth smiled sadly, because once, long ago, I was in love with a human too, back in their small room. Lurea lay on the bed, breathing slowly. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark. A soft light pulsing with each heartbeat, Raynor sat beside her, gently brushing her hair back. I don't know how to be a father, he said, honest and afraid. She smiled. I don't know how to be a mother either. They both laughed quietly. The first real laugh in days. But outside, trouble was coming. A shadow had followed them from Earth. Not Zareth, but a new figure. Unknown, silent, and deadly. Someone had put a bounty on Lurea's head and her unborn child. And in the darkest corners of Varela, money spoke louder than truth. That night, Lurea woke up in pain. She gasped, holding her stomach, eyes wide. Raynor jumped up. What is it? I don't know, she cried. It's moving too fast. Something's wrong. He held her close, his heart racing. We need to go back to Veleth, he said, reaching for his weapon. Now. But as he opened the door, a figure stood waiting. In the hallway, gun pointed at his chest. You shouldn't have come here. Commander, the voice said coldly. Raynor narrowed his eyes. You're not Galatheri. No, the man replied, but I'm paid by the manned Earth too. A double agent, a killer for hire. And the price on their heads had just become too high to ignore. Raynor stared down the barrel of the bounty hunter's gun behind him. Lurea lay on the bed, trembling from the pain, one hand on her belly, the other gripping the sheet. The baby was coming fast, too fast. The bounty hunter smiled coldly. They said you'd come here. That she'd be weak, easy to take. Raynor moved slowly, shielding Lurea with his body. I'll give you one chance, he said calmly. Walk away. The man laughed. I'm not here for warnings, Commander. I'm here for a reward. Before he could pull the trigger, Lurea's eyes flashed silver. A sudden burst of energy hit the man like a wave, sending him crashing into the metal wall. Raynor rushed forward, disarmed him, and knocked him out cold. Then he turned to Lurea, shocked. What was that? She clutched her belly, breathing hard. The child? It protected us. Raynor stared at her. It's already aware. Lurea nodded weakly. It felt danger. It reacted. Raynor lifted her in his arms. We're getting out of here. They ran through the corridors of Varela. Alarms echoing through the station. Some had seen the fight. Others smelled the money on Lurea's head. Eyes followed them. Some filled with pity. Others with greed. They reached Dr. Veleth's lab, banging on the sealed door. It opened fast. And Veleth's face turned pale as she saw Lurea's condition. She's in early labor, Raynor said, setting her gently on a medical table. Can you save her? Veleth didn't answer right away, just pulled down tools and scanners. She's not ready. But the child is forcing its way out, the doctor said. It's accelerating on its own. Lurea gritted her teeth, gasping. It's scared. It knows we're being hunted. Raynor held her hand, his face full of worry. He had faced alien armies, survived deadly missions, but this moment felt heavier than any war. You're strong, he whispered to her. You made it through everything. You'll make it through this too. Suddenly, Veleth's screen lit up with a flashing red warning. Another message came in broadcast across the colony, in both human and Galathri languages. Warning, the Galathri government has authorized full retrieval of the traitor Lurea and her offspring. Anyone who aids her will be punished. Veleth slammed the console. They're coming here. Raynor stood, loading his pistol. Then we hold them off. Lorea grabbed his wrist. No, if you stay, they'll kill you too. He looked at her with soft eyes. Then we fight together. Velith handed Lorea a small injection. This will slow the birth for 1 hour, but no more. Raynar helped Lorea to her feet, and the three of them moved deeper into the tunnels beneath the lab. Varella's underbelly was dark, narrow, and forgotten. Velith led them to an old escape pod, hidden behind broken walls and unused machines. This can take you far beyond Galatheri space, she said. Somewhere safe, somewhere they can't. Raynar looked back toward the tunnel, hearing footsteps in the distance. Lorea touched the pod's surface, tears in her eyes. Then her wrist device beeped again. A private message direct from the Galatheri High Command. She opened it. Silently, her eyes scanning each word, return with the child, and you will be forgiven. The commander will not be harmed. Leave him behind, and your place among your people will be restored. She froze, torn. This was everything she had once trained for: loyalty, duty, honor. But when she turned to look at Raynar, she didn't see a mission. She saw the only person who had treated her like more than a tool. Laura F., he asked. Seeing her face change, she stepped away from the pod slowly. Walking toward him, I had a choice, she whispered. Go home and be forgiven, or stay with you and be hunted. Forever, Raynar's jaw tightened, and she reached for his hand, placing it on her stomach. I choose this, she said. I choose you, our child, and a future not built on lies. He pulled her into a soft embrace, both of them trembling. I'll never let them take you, he said suddenly. A blast shook the wall. Galatheri troops had arrived. Armored and silent, weapons glowing, Velith hit the launch button, and the pod sealed around Lorea and Raynar just as the door burst open. The pod shot into space, fast and silent, dodging enemy scanners as it escaped into the stars. Inside, Lorea leaned her head on Raynar's shoulder, her breath slowing. The baby's heartbeat is stronger now, she whispered. It knows we're safe. Raynar held her tight, watching the stars fly past. They didn't know where they were going or what waited ahead, but they had made their choice. Love, not orders, had won. The stars moved slowly outside the escape pod window. Raynar sat close to Lorea, holding her hand. Feeling every tremble in her fingers, her face was pale, sweat forming on her brow. The injection Velith gave her was wearing off. And the child was coming now? Lorea gasped, clutching her stomach. It's time, she whispered. Raynar activated the emergency birthing protocol in the pod. Soft lights came on, and the AI voice began guiding him through steps he never imagined. He'd follow. He knelt beside her, wiping her forehead. Voice calm, but heart racing. You're not alone, he said gently. I'm right here. The pod AI monitored the baby's pulse, the mother's heartbeat, and filled the air with soft music meant to calm panic. Outside, nothing but stars. Inside, the moment that would change two worlds forever. Lorea cried out, her voice breaking. Her strength pushed to the edge. Raynar held her hand tighter, whispering encouragement with every breath. Then, in a moment so fast and bright, the child was born. The baby did not cry. Instead, it opened glowing eyes and looked around. Silently, calmly, a soft pulse moved through the pod, like a gentle wave of energy, touching every metal surface. Raynar stared in shock. Is it supposed to do that? Lorea was too tired to answer, but she smiled, tears falling from her eyes. She reached for the child, pulled it close, and the baby reached back, wrapping tiny fingers around her thumb. He's warm, she whispered, and not just in body. In spirit. Raynar leaned in and kissed her forehead, then kissed the baby's tiny cheek. You did it, he whispered. You both did. The baby was unlike anything they had imagined, small and soft, like a human. Newborn, but with faint glowing patterns along its skin, its eyes held knowledge far beyond its age. As if it could already understand the world it had entered. Hours passed as they floated in space, resting, waiting, hoping. Then the pod lights blinked. The AI spoke softly. Approaching neutral star system. No hostile signals detected. Scanning. For safe landing, Raynor looked at Larea. We'll make a home there. She nodded, still weak. But with a glow of peace in her eyes, the pod descended to a small green planet covered in forests and rivers. No cities, no armies. Just life quiet. Untouched. Safe. They found a valley near the water and built a shelter using pieces from the pod and local stone. Day by day, they healed. Larea grew stronger. Raynor learned to fish and build. And the child, whom they named Solon, began to show signs of something. Incredible, at just a few weeks old, he could lift small objects with his mind. He could feel emotion from others and send back calm. One night, as storms roared across the sky, Solon placed his tiny hand on the wall, and the storm passed by them completely. Raynor looked at Larea in awe. He's not just a child. She nodded. He's a message. Time moved on, and their story began to spread, not through words, but through the stars. Signals traveled slowly across the galaxy. Whispers of a hybrid child born of peace, hidden on a distant world. The Galathari Empire could not find them, nor could Earth's military, but others heard. Those who wanted change, who were tired of war. One morning, a small ship landed near their valley. Out stepped a group of humans and aliens, refugees, peace seekers. Broken soldiers, forgotten healers. They had followed the signal, hoping it was real. Raynor stood at the edge of the field with Solon in his arms. Larea beside him. You came all this way, he said. The leader of the group, a scarred old soldier, nodded. We came for hope. Larea stepped forward and said softly, Then you found it. Solon reached out, and his touch brought smiles, tears, and silence. A child with no flag, no army, no mission, just power born from love. He was the proof that peace wasn't just a dream. He was the future, and two people, once. From opposite sides, once tools of their governments, had made it happen by choosing each other. They never asked for power, never asked for glory, but their love became a legend, and their child, the child of peace, would be remembered for generations, not as a weapon, not as a tool, but as a beginning.